Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
I'm looking around the studio, and there's just three of us. Just me and a couple of Colts today. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Today I'm going to be talking about some tips from my book, some commentary. It's just me. And if you have been in class for any length of time, and if you have heard us say things that have impacted you, changed your life in some way, if you decided to adopt maybe some of the ways that we do things here at USA Prepares, maybe adopt something that I've taught specifically, that I have taught, and you'd like to comment on that. If it worked out well, if it didn't work out well, I'd like to know. Are we making a difference? Are we wasting your time? Are we wasting our time? I'd like to know. If you'd like to call in and share your thoughts, here's the number, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. We'll pay for the call, and I'll put you on the air right away. So just all that you'll be asked is your first name, the state you're calling from, and the topic. We don't censor the calls. However, in the past, I've asked our class to stay on topic. That's all I really ask. And of course, you'll have to be ladies and gentlemen. That goes without saying, right? But I said it anyway. You'll have to be polite, and you'll have to be factual. That's it. So, the number, 866-582-9933. And now a few words of contempt from the Associated, Amalgamated, Interconnected, and Interlocked Humorous Writers Guild, of which nothing that they've ever written is true. Including the following, quote, during the corona panic, most of the bottom 93% have found that obtaining a job has been quite an undertaking. But the Minneapolis, Minnesota Parks Police may have some openings and may be looking for individuals with specific talents to operate their aerial drone surveillance program. Specifically, they may be looking for perverts, peeping toms, and other social degenerates to scan the beaches for nude sunbathers. Due to the extreme perversion of this assignment, almost no one would be expected to qualify. So the Minneapolis Parks Police may be asking if you know the telephone numbers of any of the following people who may already be qualified for this heinous activity. Some of the following people may have made the news recently regarding their association with Jeffrey Epstein, or may have been in the news regarding scandals of sexual nature. And who are they? Harvey Weinstein, Little Willie, Anthony Weiner, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Prince Andrew. Also potentially eligible for a job with the Minneapolis Parks Police may be any Hollywood movie writer or Hollywood movie censor. One of the most talented individuals for this position, even management, is a home movie maker in his own right. But we've learned that Jeffrey Epstein is unavailable for the job. End quote. Now, for what is reported as true, The Minneapolis Parks Police Department is using drones to swoop down and take videos of nude sunbathers in Minnesota. That's absolutely true. They are. How do you like that? That's just what the city council, a mayor, and taxpayers seem to want because they tolerate it. Can you imagine that? I'm not kidding now. The Minneapolis Parks Department is using drones to swoop down and take videos of nude sunbathers because they don't want that to happen. They literally employ people to do that. It was reported, widely reported last week, that we had 3 candidates for President and CEO of the United States. As of yesterday, one dropped out. He was the husband of the woman whose mother used to be married to a man who was a triathlon Olympic medalist. And is now wearing dresses and goes by the name of Caitlyn. His wife, the former presidential candidate's wife, allegedly was involved in making a sex tape and would make us the big butt of a lot of international jokes. Imagine, we could have won the trifecta of politics. We could have had a bipolar president, married to a sex star, with a transgender husband of her mother. And to make matters worse, 1/3 of Americans don't believe that Jumpin' Joe Biden can debate President Trump. And the other 2/3 don't believe that President Donald Trump can do it either. And actually, the bipolar candidate just changed his mind again. And now he wants to be back in the race. And whoever the winner of this race is, we, the bottom 93%, are all losers. Arjun from New Jersey, welcome.
Hey, Vince. Yeah, you were mentioning like presidents, and last time I voted for Donald Trump. But like I'm in New Jersey, I don't know whether I think like my vote didn't even count. But like, what should I do this year? And then I want to tell you, like what I've learned from this channel, like, so what should I do? Like this year, should I vote for Trump? Should I vote for, I won't vote Biden, but like, what is your perspective? Like, should we go and vote for Trump at least?
Well, you're not going to like what I've said, and neither is the rest of what I'm going to say, and neither is the rest of the class. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote. I did not, although I think Donald Trump is the best choice of the poor choices that we have, I can't vote for him. I can't.
Yep.
He seems to be, unable to make up his mind for more than a day. He seems to change his mind too frequently. Let me give you an example. Lockdown. We're going to lock. First, we didn't lock down. We didn't close the airports fast enough. Although he says that we did a great job. He's always saying we do a great job. What he really means is he's patting himself on the back with what a great job he did. But he's doing a lousy job. He didn't lock down the airports fast enough. He allowed people from China and other countries to fly in here and infect the United States. They didn't act soon enough. And I talked about that. I mentioned. Someone said, why, if it was really serious, this can't be serious. This COVID-19 thing can't be serious. If it was serious, they'd lock down the airport. And what I said was this. The government can't even have a meeting. They can't even get the people together to meet. It takes a week to get everybody together, get their schedules all lined up to meet, to try to make a decision on who they should select to be on the committee to make a decision. Okay? So they can't do it quickly. It's impossible for them. So we didn't lock down quick enough. Then we had the masks, no masks, no lockdown. They can't make up their mind. The bottom 93% of us are confused. We don't know do we have to wear a mask? Is a mask a good thing? Is a mask a bad thing? The federal government is not capable of telling the truth. Okay. We were told by the president that the vice president, Mike Pence, would be the filter. He would be the person that all information would be funneled through in order to let us know what the government's position is. That hasn't worked. That didn't work for 20 minutes. Mike Pence, where is he anyway? Okay. And then the president does not lead by example. He goes out to these rallies. He goes to these, public meetings, and he's not wearing a mask. But we're told to wear a mask. He's not leading by example. So I cannot vote for him. I cannot do it. Now, if he doesn't win, it's going to be terrible. As Kyle said yesterday, if President Donald Trump is not reelected, there will be a civil war. I believe that's absolutely true. But I believe right now that the civil war has already started here in the United States. The shooting has started, real bullets. Yeah. And I believe that there are protests and there are riots and there's burning and the news has been, I believe, the news has been told, knock it off. You can't report this because if you report it, you're throwing gasoline on the fire. You're making it worse. So knock it off. Don't report any of this. So the racial tensions are at extremely high levels in the United States. We haven't seen this kind of violence in the United States since the 1960s when we had race riots. And Newark, New Jersey, or Newark, New Jersey, depending on how you pronounce it and which part of the country you're from. There were riots there. There were riots in Watts, California, Chicago. The National Guard was on every street corner in the big cities. We haven't had that kind of violence in the United States since the 1960s. And now here it is. And so what has happened? The president has pumped up he and his cronies have pumped up the stock market. They've pumped it up so that you can look at the Dow Jones Industrial Index and you can say, wow, everything's great. Which is nonsense. It's not great because most of us don't have jobs. The lack of understanding about what is happening and the crony capitalism and the synagogue of greed in Washington, D.C. has taken this country down to its knees. We're not coming back. I stand by everything I've said. No change in anything I've said. I've said that the coronavirus is real. It's deadly. I said that the corona panic would ensue and it would take down American jobs. It would be brother against brother. We would be fighting with each other. We'd be rioting, pillaging, burning, raping, bashing, crashing, slashing, busting, and burning. I said all those things, and they all happened. And they happened under the president's watch. Now, did he cause all of it? No. People like William Jefferson Blythe Clinton, people like the Bush family, those people, and the Bidens, and all of these career politicians, with their nonstop actions of wasting our money and enriching their friends and themselves, taxing us into oblivion, regulating us into oblivion, allowing the Chinese and other countries to steal our jobs while we're watching. That has caused this. So I can't vote for anybody like that. Yeah, now he's an outsider, and that's the best news. But he's also been bankrupt a bunch of times. And going bankrupt is using other people's money, failing, and then walking away and unscathed. That's what going bankrupt is. And he's been bankrupt at least 3 times that I know of. And it's probably more like 5 or 6. Arjun, hold on, and we can continue, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. Arjun is with us, calling in from New Jersey. And if you think about it, class, the Republican Party is corrupt. The Democrat Party is corrupt. 89 of our senators and Congress, men and women, hold dual citizenship with Israel. So who are they? Now, here's a list as of 2018. Barbara Boxer, Democrat, California. Dianne Feinstein, Democrat, California. Al Franken, Democrat, Minnesota. Frank Lautenberg, Democrat, New Jersey. And this is as of 2018. Joseph Lieberman, Connecticut, Independent, Connecticut. Bernie Sanders, Independent, Vermont. Charles Schumer, Democrat, New York. Now, in the House of Representatives, There are more. Let's see. Nita Lowey, Democrat, New York. Sander Levin, Democrat, Michigan. Steve Israel, Democrat, New York. Now, just about everybody is a Democrat, except for a couple independents. Eric Cantor is one of the few, if not the only, Republican House of Representatives member, Republican from Virginia. Other than that, they're all Democrats or independents, just a couple independents. So here we have, in the highest levels of government in the United States of America, 89 of these critters that are senators and congressmen that hold dual citizenship with Israel. Now, how is it possible to have allegiance to the United States of America and have a dual citizenship with another country? How's that possible? It's not possible. So we have a corrupt government. We have a president who is fighting everything around him. He's got the deep state trying to put him down. He's got the Democrat Party putting him down. He's got the media putting him down. And he's a tough guy. He really is. But I'm not going to vote for him because, and I'm not suggesting that you don't vote. I'm just saying this is my line in the sand I'm not going to cross. It's hard. It's hard to be a proud American today. I think what we need is a change of government. I think we need to get rid of 95% of government employees. I don't know a single government employee. I don't know a single government employee who works as hard as he should. I don't know a single government employee who's not watching the clock looking for retirement. They do really well. It used to be, if you flunked out of life, you could always get a government job. Because the people who worked in the government weren't all that bright. The tables have turned. The people in government are telling us what to do. They're threatening us at the muzzle of a gun, and I don't like it. I don't like the fact that the U.S. Department of Agriculture threatens me with the agricultural census. I don't like the fact that police pull people over needlessly. License, registration, and insurance, looking for a way to steal money from us. Not everybody is a felon. Not everybody's a criminal. Not everybody breaks the law. I don't like the fact that cops go to bars and taverns and restaurants when it's dark and mark the tires with a reflective marker that shows as these cars go down the street after they leave. And they say, oh, there's one that goes, oh, that was the one I just marked. Let's pull him over because that's a bar. Obviously that guy's been drinking. Let's pull him over. That's the kind of stuff they do. And because of all of these things, I'm just sick of it. And I'm not going to participate in the system. I've gone Galt. John Galt. Who's John Galt? I'm not participating in the system. I'm not giving up information easily. It's going to be difficult to extract information from me. I'm not signing my tax return that says I agree to under the penalty of perjury terms. I'm not doing it. I cross that off. I'm making it difficult. These guys threaten us all the time. There's nobody to call. We're on our own. You have a problem with a company, you're on your own. You can't call the government and say, hey, listen, this company ripped us off. Arjun, please stay with us and talk through your portion. We'll be right back. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Arjun's with us in New Jersey, and I mentioned John Galt. Who is John Galt? I am. I'm John Galt. And you might be as well. John Galt is a man, a fictional character in Ayn Rand's novel Atlas Shrugged of 1957. And John Galt walked away from the big machine in favor of working with people he respected and liked. He walked away from the bribery and the payoff world of government and business. He wanted to be with people who were intelligent, with people who were willing to work to achieve excellence. That's who John Galt is in the novel Atlas Shrugged. I'm John Galt. And I hope you are as well. I'm not willing to go easily. I'm not willing to be led by the big machine. I am not willing to take being threatened lightly. And I refuse to participate in the system as much as I can. And that kind of explains why I have not voted in the last selection with an S, and I don't plan to vote in the current selection, even though of the bad choices that we have, Donald Trump is the best of the bad choices. Arjun, what are your thoughts about what I said?
Yes, I 100% agree with you, Vince. And you mentioned yesterday that, like, you know, like what we learned from this show, you know, like, and I want to say that I have, you know, like what you teach here and other instructors, you and other instructors, what they teach here, it's worth its weight in gold, and you guys don't even get paid for it. You know, like when we were when we were growing up, you know, like our fathers, they used to tell us, do this, don't do this, you know, like and they used to yell at you all the time. The reason why they do that is because they care, you know, like, so I think like all of you and all your instructors, they care so much. That's why you guys are doing these things. And like, I will tell you like what happened. You know, like recently I used to throw my toasters away, you know, like once they burn out and like, you know, like if you're toasting your bread, the smoke will come out and, you know, like it will put the alarm on. So I used to throw those toasters away, like previously. But like, what I did recently was I took my old toothbrush and I opened the whole toaster and I just brushed it up like completely. And, you know, like after that, like the toaster was just fine. You know, like I started up, toasted my breads, you know, like everything was fine. No smoke was coming out. You know, like this is a very small thing that actually I learned. But these things, you know, like these things were taught, you know, like taught to us, you know, like when we were growing up. Our fathers, grandfathers, they used to say the similar things that you teach, the same each and everything, you know, like they used to teach us similar things. You know, like they just were buried in our minds. When we listen these things, then these things actually just come out, you know, like they come out of you and, you know, like you can start inventing things. And I wanted to ask you, Rich Stevens, you know, like he has some sort of batteries and he powers his electricity with those batteries. I want to know like what that is and, you know, like what those batteries are. How can I buy those batteries?
Okay. Rich Sheben has an off-grid system. It's a 24-volt off-grid system with solar panels. And so what he does is the sun charges the solar panels, of course, and he has a charge controller which charges his 24-volt battery bank. And he uses lead-acid batteries. Now, lead-acid batteries is a great way to go. There are several ways to go. And I considered using lead-acid batteries as well, but I didn't, and I'll tell you why in just a second. I believe the battery brand that he has is Trojan, Trojen. I believe that's how it's spelled. And they make these deep cycle type batteries. They're heavy. And they are connected in series, one to the next, to the next, to the next. And he has actually a series parallel array of batteries so that he gets 24 volts. Lead acid batteries, you can charge, when they're brand new, you can charge them up to 100% full charge. And then you can use them at night when the sun is down to power your devices, like lighting and whatever else you may have. The lead acid batteries do not like it when you discharge them more than 15%. So that means that they don't like it when you bring them below 85% full charge. And every time that you do bring a lead acid battery below 85% full charge, you permanently damage it a little bit. And the lower you bring it below 85% full charge, the more damage you do. And it's not fixable. So lead acid batteries have less storage capacity than nickel iron batteries. The battery bank that I have here at our farm is a nickel iron battery, and I can take it down probably down to 25% charge, meaning I can use 75% of the charge without damaging the battery bank. So I have more capacity in those cells, but they are, they're more expensive. And actually we don't know how long they'll last, because the design was from 1906, the Edison Battery Company, Thomas Edison. And, when you want to renew them, you dump out the electrolyte and you refill them with new electrolyte and distilled water. And now they're almost as good as new again. So they last a really long time. So you can use lead acid, which is more common. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying it won't last as long as a nickel iron battery will. But they're less expensive. So you can keep them for, let's say, I think Rich had his for maybe 7 to 10 years, which is extremely a long time. You can ruin them in a year if you're not careful. So his have lasted a long time. And, that's what he uses. So he uses the lead acid. I use the nickel iron. And then there are other batteries, that are way more sophisticated than the lead acid and the nickel iron. But I'm not interested in the sophisticated battery bank, because if you have one of those, the charging system is really complex. It's so complex that you have to charge each cell individually and have a computer system monitor the charge of each cell. That being said, the charger is really expensive. And if it fails, you're out of luck. Now, in my case, I can charge the nickel iron with a generator, and so can Rich Eben. He can charge his lead acid battery bank with a generator or a charger. So I suggest, if you're considering this, you consider going the way Rich Eben did, lead acid, or the way we went, nickel iron.
Okay, sure. All right, this is all I have for today. Thank you very much for taking the call.
Hey, do you have any negative comments? Have we ever given you a bum steer, pointed you in the wrong direction? Said, here's what you ought to consider doing, and it was wrong?
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I cannot recall anything. The things that you guys are teaching, it's extremely helpful. Even if you are keeping them in your mind, they will come up like when you need them.
Well, that's a very good point. And I'm going to talk about some things for the rest of the broadcast that are like that. And so my plan is to mention things, and maybe they are not appropriate for action right now. But if you have them in the back of your mind, when you get to that point, you may say, hey, I remember those guys saying something about this. I need to do a little bit more research, because we can do it a better way. We can do it, instead of the way that most people do it, we can do it the way some of those guys at USA Prepares do it, because they've got a lot of bruises. We've been banged up a lot. We've seen a lot of mistakes. And so we try to advise you not to make the mistakes that other people have made.
Exactly. And I'm doing I'm working on a project, and I will tell you once that is complete, but it's similar to things that you have taught here. And I will tell you all about it once it's complete.
Sure. That sounds great. Yeah. And, Arjun, I'd like to suggest to our class that, and I've talked to a few, students, and they're thinking about doing what we've done, moving out to the country. And I suggest always the same thing. Don't buy someone else's mistakes. Every single house that I've ever been in, every single one has mistakes. And the insulation is not right, the wiring's not right, the plumbing's not right, the location's not right, the house isn't pointed in the right direction, the house is not high enough off the ground so that the basement floods, the basement doesn't have a perimeter drain around it. So many mistakes. And they all have them. They all have all kinds of mistakes. The roof pitch is wrong. Space is wasted. So many things are wrong with all these houses that I've seen, that I've recommended that people find land that has not been abused. Find land that is not in the path of cell towers. Not downwind from a close nuclear reactor. that has low taxes. Get some land that has low taxes and make your own mistakes. The way we did. The way Dr. Norm Shealy did. The way Rich Sheben did. And a few others. You know, we've made our own mistakes. And I'm using a little bit of humor when I say make your own mistakes. What I really mean is don't make the mistakes that other people make. Don't buy their mistakes. Don't pay for their mistakes. And if you buy a used house, the plans are probably on file at your county recorder's office. They know the inside of your house. They've already taken pictures of it. They know everything about it. Every permit, they know what your wiring has been upgraded. Don't do that. Go find a location that doesn't have a building inspector. No one has plans to our house. I made sure that the other team did not have plans to our house. They know how many square feet it is, but they don't know the layout of it, and I've never let them inside, and I won't. So, if you buy someone else's house, you're buying all the recordings, all the information about that house over the years, because, you know, when the tax assessor comes down over to that particular property to just make sure that they're getting as much as they can from you, or the previous owner. Previous owners probably said, oh yeah, come on in. Yeah, oh yeah, look around. You know, have some coffee, thinking that being nice to these assessors is the good thing to do. No. They want whatever you have. And so, if you give it to them, you've lost your mind. So we're not doing that. Our gate is locked. If the assessor wants to come here now, she's going to have to hop the gate, trespass, meet some unfriendly people, and be turned around. She's not coming in. She's never been in. I won't let her in the barn. I won't let her in the garage. I won't let her walk around. She has no business doing it. But they do have drones now. So the plan is privacy. And to get that level of privacy, you're going to have to make it yourself. You have to build it yourself, because your privacy has been compromised by the previous owner if you buy someone else's house. Any comments, Arjun?
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I'm actually working on this project, and, I will keep all these things in mind. Yeah.
Very good. Not just me today, and a couple of Colts. And if you have been with us for any length of time and you've followed some of the things that we've said, and you'd like to comment about whether they worked or not, I'd love to hear it. If you get some criticisms about the way we do things, I'd love to hear that too. Here's the number, 866-582-9933. And if you notice, at USA Prepares, we try to give long answers. We don't give you the bum's rush. We don't measure what we do in how fast we do it, how many calls we process. We want to give you the correct answer so that you understand what we're trying to say. You know, there's one of the things that I think is important for many, many locations, at least all of the ones that I've lived in, is if you have hard water, you ought to consider getting a water softener. And I think we're in this for the long run. And a water softener will save you money in the long run. Now, you can buy one from Sam's Club, a pretty darn good one, for about $350, $360, made by a company called Morton, like the Morton Salt Company. It looks like it's the same model that Sears used. It looks like it's the same model that Whirlpool made. So I believe it's a Whirlpool rebranded Morton. And I want to talk to you about water softeners and what they do. So a water softener has a tank, actually has two tanks. One of the tanks is a salt container. And the salt can be rock salt, which has a lot of impurities, not a good way to go. Or you can use these salt pellets. Morton makes them, Diamond Crystal makes them, and they come in these 40-pound bags. And if you get them on sale, you can get a bag of salt for about $5 for 40 pounds. So it's not really expensive. And what happens is the hardness is absorbed by another tank. And this tank is a fiberglass tank. And usually it's the fiberglass tank sitting inside of the salt pellet tank. So it's like one container, but there are two tanks, a tank within a tank. And what happens is this inner tank, this fiberglass tank inside the plastic tank, is filled with these plastic balls. And these plastic balls attract the hardness. And as water passes through, around, and among these plastic balls, hundreds of them, the hardness coats the outside of these plastic balls. And then to wash those balls off again, to recharge them, if you will, clean them up so they can absorb more hardness, a brine solution, which is a salt solution, is passed over these balls, and it washes them clean and disinfects them as well, and sends that brine solution with the hard particles, atoms, molecules that have attached themselves to the outside of these balls down the drain. And it works great. So what are the results? Well, you use less detergent in your dishwasher, less soap in the shower, less shampoo in the shower or bath, less detergent in the clothes washing machine. A lot less. You use about 1/3 of the amount you would normally use if you had hard water. So you save a lot of different ways. You also don't clog your plumbing with this calcium, if you will, that restricts the flow of water through the elbows, through the pipes, through the aerators on your on your faucet. And you also prolong the life of the valving, meaning the lever that you use to turn on and off the water flow in the shower, in the toilets, in the sinks, in the hydrants, in the outside water bibs, all of that. Everything lasts longer. It's a great way to go, but you're going to have to spend $350, $360 for the unit, and you'll have to have it installed. Can you do it yourself? Probably. And there are plenty of videos that you can find on the internet on how to do that. So now the question is, what about the salt? It won't work without salt. You got to have it. And the salt gets consumed. It's kind of like ink cartridges for a printer. You know, when you don't have an ink cartridge that has ink in it, the printer's worthless, right? Same thing with a water softener. So how much salt does a water softener use? Well, I've got the calculations here. I figured it out. So a typical water softener might supply about 75 gallons of soft water per day to a household. Now that's at a hardness of 10 grains. And that's a measurement of how hard the water is. 20 grains would be harder. It takes about 5 ounces of salt to clean a water softener. That would remove 10 grains of hardness out of 75 gallons of water. So typically, for most of us, we're going to be using about 5 ounces of salt every day to clean the water softener. And it's an automatic process. It does it all by itself. You just tell it what the hardness is, and it does it all by itself. I'll tell you more about this when we come back. And I'll talk about the burn rate. How much salt do you really use? And I think you might be pleasantly surprised. This is USA Prepares. I'm Vincent Finelli. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. That's just me this afternoon, and this morning, depending on what time zone you're in. And I'm talking about some tips from the book. And if you have taken any of her advice, counsel, and used it, I'd love to hear from you. Did it work? Did it not work? Did you waste your time? Did you waste your money? Did it save you money? Positive or negative, I'd love to hear it. 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. I wanted to mention, before I go into some more about the water softener burn rate, if you decide that you want to buy a solar system, or if you decide you want to buy a generator, and you'd like some more information before you go buy it, give us a call, and we'll be glad to help you. We use them. We have them. We've had them for years. We can talk about diesel. We can talk about propane. We can talk about gasoline. We can talk about maintenance. We can talk about what they cost. We can talk about how big of a generator you need. We can talk about the noise. We can talk about how to reduce the noise. We can tell you some horror stories, things that people thought they were prepared for a serious situation like an ice storm that lasted a long time, and what happens when the generators don't work, and what to do to fix them. And, believe it or not, carburetors are now considered a replacement maintenance item. We're mowing the lawn with a little Cub Cadet 10 horsepower tractor, garden tractor, lawn tractor. It's actually a lawnmower that you ride around on. Kind of like the ones you see at Lowe's and Home Depot and Chinese factory outlet. It's $2,000 jobs. And this one was made by International Harvester. It was the top of the line. Our neighbor bought it brand new around 1960. And he mowed his lawn 1 acre a couple times a week. He had a golf course. Actually, his manicure is better than any golf course. He was a farmer before he moved to the suburbs. And he mowed his lawn, which was the finest lawn you've ever seen anywhere, bar none. And he mowed the lawn, twice a week for years and years, actually decades. And when I was younger, I put a replacement engine in it for him. And he kept on going with it. And my dad bought it from him for $675 used, at least 15 or 20 years used. And we still have it. So that's like 60 years old. Can you imagine that? It still works. Still has the original front tires, the original rear tires, the original transmission clutch. I mean, hard to believe, right? But that's the way they were made. This was made by International Harvester, a farm machinery company. Top of the line. It was $1,100 back in 1960. That still works. We were using it yesterday to cut the lawn. We grease the bearings, all the Zerk fittings. We grease them every time we use it. And it has the original carburetor. Now, why is that? Because they made them to last. They didn't make carburetors to be disposable like the Chi-Coms do now. And if you get a couple of years out of a carburetor, you're doing pretty well now. You get 4 years out of it, you're like in the top 1%. Back to water softeners. So, with a typical hardness of 10 grains in the water, and using 75 gallons of water a day, which is about typical, you're going to use about 5 ounces of salt to flush out the water softener, to remove the hardness and send it down the drain. So, bags of salt are sold everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but in a lot of places. Like Sam's Club has them. Chinese factory outlet has them. Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards. And they sell them in 40-pound bags. When you handle these bags, you want to be careful that if you put them in your car, you don't let any of the salt get on the car because it's corrosive. If you put it in your trunk and sits there for a while, dampness will cause rust. So what I do is I put a tarp down in the truck bed and I put the salt on the tarp. And actually, I buy it by the pallet. And I'm going to tell you why. So I mentioned it's about $5 a bag. Actually, it can be $6 a bag. It can be even more than that, depending on where you live and how much the reseller is going to gouge you. But when I buy it, I pay currently $5.19 a bag minus 11% at Menards. That brings it down to $4.62 a bag. And the last time I bought it, I bought a pallet load. Well, actually less than a pallet load, 31 bags. Now, how long will that last? Well, at the rate I mentioned, 5 ounces of salt a day, that means that you'll use about 1 40-pound bag of salt every 4 months. That means you're going to use roughly 3 bags at 40 pounds a bag per year. Now, if you paid $6 a bag, that would be the price of the salt plus your tax, and tax. That'd be about $18 a year. $18 a year is what it's going to cost you to run your water softener. Now, is that a good value in the shampoo that you're going to save? You bet. You'll save that in shampoo. You'll save that in soap. You'll save that in laundry detergent. You'll save that in dishwasher detergent. And the soft water will be way easier on all of those appliances. Way easier. Way easier. So you'll probably save 5 times that easily every year. So I recommend you buy a salt that would be called, don't buy rock salt. Rock salt is the cheapest and it's the dirtiest and it'll clog up your system. So buy something called solar salt. That's what we do. Brett in New York, welcome. You're on with me.
Hey, thanks, Vince. Pretty long time listener. As a matter of fact, when you took your website down, when the trolls were attacking you, I was trying to get you a message to Rich Haven through his website, Off Grid Montana, to keep going, keep the faith. You know, I really appreciate you. My garden is bigger this year because of, things that you've said. I listen to everything you say and I give things a try, and I can't specifically remember, what, but I always keep stuff. Like I was looking for a freezer, a chest freezer, and this guy had a 2-year-old one, and then you said, the Chi-Coms are making stuff that's not that great. So I said, you know what, I'm going to hold out for an older model.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a freezer that I bought. I paid $75 for it. It's made by Whirlpool, and it says Montgomery Wards on it. Now, Montgomery Wards has been out of business for about 30 years. So this was this was one of the last ones that they were blowing out. So it's at least 30 years old, and it's great. It's well made. It's an American-made unit. It's just like the one that says Kenmore. So Whirlpool made it for Kenmore, Montgomery Wards, and other companies. And it's a great way to go. And you know what you can do? If you buy flour, if you're fortunate enough to find flour, you can put that bag of flour in the freezer, freeze it. It helps kill all those, potentially hatching little critters that might hatch out later. It's a great thing to do as soon as you get that flour. And then you can always keep it frozen if you have the extra space. If you run out of space, you take the flour out and put whatever else you want to put in. And so, is there anything else that we have done that you've decided to take our advice on?
I've been listening to you for so long, and I can't specifically remember. I am going to invest in, I guess they call them shortwave radios. You were talking about that, I think, earlier in the week, and you reminded me that that's something that I need to do, for when communications go down. But, I listen to you, I listen to Gwyneth, I listen to everybody all the instructors that are on there. I was a New York State employee at one time, and, we had a separation of service. And, I really got a taste of, like, the corporate hierarchy, more of the paramilitary hierarchy. And, we didn't get along. So, fortunately, I had other business ventures that keep me from having to go to work for somebody. And, I'm hoping to sell my property and buy a piece of land and go off the grid. So the suggestions that you've made, they're all in my head. I can't particularly pull, lots of them out, but what you suggested about looking for property that has more than one source of water and where to position the house and things like that are all like in the back of my head, that when I get to that point, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm looking for, because I now have the benefit of your knowledge, being a farmer and, being somebody who thinks before you do things and tries to find the quickest, easiest method, or the most efficient method, maybe not the quickest and easiest, but what gets you the result, what it's worth the labor to do the time, or worth the time to do the labor to get the end result that you want.
Interesting point you make, Brett. And when you look at houses, if you buy a used house, whether it be a farmhouse or a suburban house, regardless of what it is, the people who made it, unless it was made in the 1800s, it was the quickest and easiest. Okay. The plumbing was the quickest and easiest. The wiring was the quickest and easiest. The builder wanted to use less material. The homeowner wanted it faster. Everything was done for speed.
Well, I was in the trades for 35 years. I'm a trained plumber. I do electric. I've done commercial electric at my place. I have a large apartment house that I'm trying to sell. And so I do almost every trade. So I'm familiar to some degree with just about every trade. And, like the electrician was on, what was that, 2 weeks ago or a week ago? I don't remember his name.
You're talking about Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin in Florida. He was a student who rose to be an instructor, and he was attending college, and he walked away from college to hang out his own shingle and be an entrepreneur and go in the appliance repair business. So he does it for himself. And he schedules his appointments, and he's going to be on Friday, and he rescheduled some appointments so that he could be on Friday. So when you work for yourself, you can do those kind of things. You're your own boss.
I did work for myself. I was a plumber in business, and then the state job came along, and I actually did both for many years, and that's how I was able to build my rental properties through working. I've worked 2 jobs for like 35 years, most of like 35 years.
Mm-hmm. I have as well, Brett. So here, I have a couple quick questions that may shed some light on being a landlord with our class.
Oh, I started to do the canning, by the way. I started to interrupt you. I just remembered. I started doing canning.
Excellent.
After
Brett,
listening to that lady.
If you don't mind holding on, and Kathy will be on Friday as well.
Great.
If you don't mind, can you hold? I've got a couple questions about real estate investing. Do you do your own taxes?
Sure.
Do you do your own taxes? Have you found that plumbing, electrical, and wiring is done properly by other people? I have found that it's not. It has not been. I'd love to hear your comments.
Let's talk after the break.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Brett's with us in New York, and I have a couple quick questions for him. He's a jack of many trades. And I want to tell you, class, that I had a job. I received a regular paycheck, and I had benefits. And I noticed that with each paycheck, there seemed to be more deductions. More and more was taken out of my paycheck by, we'll call them taxes and fees, etc. And then I noticed that there were more deductions taken out of the benefits. So there was less money for me, more taken out of the paycheck, and less benefits. And then I realized that I was called to a meeting one day, and there's a big meeting, and everybody was invited to the corporate cafeteria, and this was in corporate headquarters. There were 600 of us, and it was a bank. A large bank, credit card bank. And we were told that, actually the rumor was true. We were being purchased by another bank, and we were. And a whole bunch of us were thrown out on the street. And so all that security that I had evaporated. No security. And so I decided that real estate was a great way to go. And there were a lot of reasons why I got involved in investing in real estate. Bought some apartment buildings, and I saw lots of mistakes. Everywhere I went, I saw mistakes. Plumbing, heating, electrical, hanging doors, roofing, everything you possibly think of. Brett, what's your reaction to that?
Oh, I can't even tell you some of the stuff I've seen. This house alone, they had, from what I understand, one of the 14-year-old sons doing repairs in the house. And he went down to the local hardware store, and whatever he could find, I replaced the water main about 2 or 3 years ago, and I knew it was leaking. I knew there was problems. And when I dug it up, you wouldn't believe what I found. I found 1/2 inch, I think it was either M or L copper. K-copper is very thick, bendable, flexible, able to take rocks, settling on it. Right. It's a big no-no. Big no-no.
Yeah, the 3 grids
like one of these.
There's a lot of noise in the background, Brett. What's that all about? Do you know?
Oh, I was standing at a railing while I'm talking to you.
Well, it's we can't hear you. So, all right. So,
Okay.
The bottom line is you found mistakes. You found mistakes in the construction and in the repairs.
Yeah.
And I have as well. Do you do your own taxes as a landlord, as a real estate investor?
No, you can't do everything.
I
try to do everything.
Yeah, you can.
To keep up on the laws.
Oh,
with,
well, Brett,
depreciation and, the accountant goes to courses for that.
Yeah, Brett, you can. And I guarantee you that if you download publication 17 from the Internal Revenue Service and you read the part about business deductions, etc., you will find out, and you'll be grinning from ear to ear with all if you listen to USA Prepares and you take, some little bits from lots of broadcasts, you will be grinning from ear to ear when you figure out you can take way more deductions than you've been taking. Because your accountant will not, let me say it a different way, your accountant will not take all the deductions that you are entitled to. Because if he or she does, that may put them in jeopardy and they may lose all their customers. Because if one customer gets audited, a whole bunch of them will get audited and they'll talk and they'll say, who did your taxes? Because I just got audited. It was Connie.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's what the problem is. It's Connie. Okay. So they won't take those deductions. I do. And I'm willing to face down the IRS anytime they want to do it. And so I always win because I don't cheat. I do not cheat. Everything is above board according to the rules. So download publication 17 from the IRS and you won't believe the deductions that you can take. And you're going to fire your accountant. I'll tell you why. Because your accountant charges you money and costs you money by not taking full advantage of the tax code.
Technically, from what I understand, first of all, the IRS is a corporation formed in Puerto Rico. But secondly, they only have the authority in the District of Columbia. So everybody's volunteering.
Well, I keep hearing that too. But if you don't volunteer, they'll sell your place at the courthouse steps. Hey, Brett, thanks so much for calling in. D in Illinois, you're up next.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Brett. D in Illinois, welcome.
How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How about you?
Well, we have a little problem here, and my apologies to the audience for changing the subject. And if I'm coughing or anything like that, my apologies. I don't have the virus. David and I are both severely allergic to kittens, or cats, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So, we had this mama cat outside of our house that had 5 kittens yesterday that were discovered in our yard in a hole. So we gave Mama a box to put her kittens in and food and water. Mm-hmm. Went out there this morning. Mama and 4 of the kittens are gone. Box is still there. We have 1 abandoned kitten. We cannot keep this kitten. We are both highly allergic to cats, and we have asthma attacks. Mm. So we have a possibility of someone coming to get the kitten this evening, but we want to know what your knowledge is of how to take care of this kitten until then. Please keep in mind this is a very, very small kitten. I'm going to guess, and I've been on farms and around kittens and stuff, I don't think this cat is even more than 2 weeks old, or 3 at best.
Okay. Well, it's a tough one. It really is. We have adopted a whole bunch of kittens and cats over our lives, and we have 5 of them right now. And of course, all of them have been adopted. There are kittens that we find in the road. There are kittens that we find in culverts, and we even have kittens that we go out and feed that they're just wild on our property, and we feed them every day. Well, you know that it's really important for a kitten to have his mama or her mama.
I know.
And for heat to help, young cats are unable to regulate their own temperature, so they need the mama's body heat to survive. They're still developing coordination. They're still developing vision. And so you're going to have to bottle feed this kitten if you want it to live, or someone is. And that's every 2 hours for up to 4 weeks. And that will help your kitten, function, naturally, pee and poop. So about 8 weeks after a kitten is born, they're weaned, and they have enough energy to defend themselves just a little bit. So that's the point where you can use dry kibble or wet food. And typically, you're up for bottle feeding. Now, I don't know what the best bottle feed formula is going to be. I think you need to look that up. The ones that we've adopted were a little older than that. They kind of were weaned. But I got to tell you, when you adopt an animal, you adopt all the problems that animal's ever been through, the fears, the terror, and we adopted recently a terrier. Brought it to the vet, and we wanted to know exactly what kind of an animal this little puppy was. And the vet said she's a Terrier 57, meaning mongrel of
mixed. Yeah,
everything's
in there.
Mixed. And this gal is out of control, wild, chases all the other animals, thinks that she's as big as a cow. She's really a problem, but we're not going to throw her away because she's going to die. So we are working with her to kind of train her. So you've got a tough little row to hoe, especially with the allergies. But sounds like...
Yes, I know. My eyes are pouring. They're burning.
well okay.
Bad. But if it will help with the age, Vince, she has teeth, and she is up moving around in her box.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's going to need to be, you're going to need to help her regulate her temperature. You're going to need to make sure she's hydrated, and you're going to have to feed her every couple of hours. It's kind of like having a newborn. So.
Yeah, well, that was 35 years ago, Vince.
Yeah. Well, you guys have mentioned, David mentioned, German Shepherd puppies, 2 of them. And I got to tell you, one of them is a handful. 2 of them is like 5 times more complicated. And I wanted to share an interesting story. So it's been really hot here in Missouri, and I'm pretty sure it's hot where you are too, in Illinois.
Yes, that's
so hot,
why we brought her in the house.
Right. It's too hot. Yeah. And so none of the animals want to be outside. The cows are swimming in the ponds. They're in the woods. It's so hot. Black cows, they absorb the heat. It's just terrible. The dogs don't want to be outside. The cats don't want to be outside. And so I let the puppies, the Alsatian puppies, that are about 5 months old now, the twins, and they were in the studio. I left them in the studio. They were sleeping, and I guess they got bored, and they decided to try to learn how to read. And of course, their eyes are not the same as human eyes, so they can't read a whole page at a time. So they have to break up the pages into smaller pieces so they can read them. And these 2 Alsatians decided that they would start with the 2020 agricultural census documents. And they realized that was way too complicated because it was all numbers and no pictures. And so they decided to just abandon that, and they left it scattered. They tried to read it scattered all over the floor. And then they went on to a magazine, the current issue of the Missouri Conservationist, and that had lots of pictures, and they liked that better. But they got bored, and so now we know that they want to read, but they can't read. So Mrs. Finelli said that, when they threaten us again for not filling out the agricultural census, the dog ate it. And it's absolutely true. But as far as... as far as your kitten, I think you're going to have to do a little bit of research and find out what the correct formula is pronto. And, you're going to want to pet her and hug her and be there for her, because your mom right now, both you and David are mom. She's going to need lots of attention.
No, actually, she responds to me, which is amazing, because normally animals will go and respond to David all the time. Mm-hmm. But she responds to me, and I'm like, oh God, I can't pick up this cat. I want to so bad. But man, oh man, I'm going to have something, I don't know, a filter or a mask or something on, because this is getting bad. And I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate this. I do, because I love cats. I don't dislike them at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm with you, and we love animals, and all lives matter. People and insects, worms, kittens, puppies, all of them. So be really careful when you decide to whatever formula you're going to use. There is a milk replacement, and there's one called KMR, and they say don't use cow's or goat's milk, because kittens need milk that approximates what they receive from their mamas in terms of protein, carbohydrates, minerals, fat, vitamins, etc. So you're in the market now for a replacement, and they say that you should not use a microwave oven to heat that milk, because it could be heated such that it's overheated and warm in some spots and really hot in other spots, and you can burn the cat. So it's the same thing as heating baby formula in a pan with warm water, and you have to test it. So on your wrist, as we would with a child, human.
And that's KMR?
Yeah. It's a formula called KMR by a company called Pet Ag. And you might have to go to a farm supply or a veterinarian for it. But you're going to need to do it like real soon, like right now.
Well, David and I have no ability to do that right now. We're just working with what we have. Mm-hmm. But I'm definitely going to give this information to the people that come pick the kitten up this evening.
There you go. There you go. Make sure she stays hydrated. Make sure she stays hydrated. Okay?
I mean, we're trying with regular milk right now. That's the best we can do right now. We don't have any ability to get to the store to get anything extra right now.
No, I understand that. But I applaud you. I applaud you for undertaking this, and that's who we are here at USA Prepares. We don't want anything, any living thing, to suffer or die needlessly. That's who we are. And so thank you for taking care of this kitten.
I'd love to help the mom. I was trying to get this person to take the mom and all 5 babies, but we can't even find mom and the other 4 babies right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she might have taken them off, or worse. Yeah.
Yes.
I've got
this kitten is the one that was wanting everybody to hold it yesterday when we found it. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking that Mama may have abandoned it because of the human smell on it.
Mm-hmm. That could be. So here's kitten development. Now, they can lift their heads at birth. They can, after 2 to 3 weeks after birth, they can maintain an upright posture. Can this kitten do that?
Yes, she's walking around a little bit, staggering, but walking around the cardboard box. Okay.
All right. So, looking at, their eyes remain blue, and then they go to their true color after 2 weeks. Actually, within 3 months, their eyes go to the true color. The ears begin to function at 6 to 7 days after birth. They startle reflex to noise is as early as 3 days. Depth perception by 4 weeks. tooth development by 4 weeks.
Okay, well, she's got teeth, and David just said that she's starting to try to climb out of the 10-inch box, and she's almost actually getting out of it, so we got to find something else to put her in.
Okay. So that's great, because she's not as young as we might have thought initially. I'm trying to find some information about when you can start. Okay. They can voluntarily pee and poop at about 3 weeks.
She is doing that.
Okay. Okay, so we got at least 3 weeks of age. And, but it's by 8 weeks that the kitten will be completely done with the milk replacement. So milk replacement for up to 8 to 10 weeks. Dee, thanks so much for calling in. I've got Robert in Kansas on hold. Robert in Kansas, welcome.
How, Vincent?
Robert, you are one contrarian, and I don't mean that negatively, who will give me a run for my money, and I appreciate you calling in.
Vincent, I have some news. I might be a part of that tribe, the Indian tribe who took over half of Oklahoma, and so I need to change my instructor name, and that would be Chief Contrarian Running Water. And I hope that hope you'll put that on the fill that in wherever you have my name now, because
hang on a second. Chief Contrarian
Running Water. Yes, sir.
Okay, my Indian name is Contrary Warrior, so that's already taken. Yeah, it is.
Oh,
really? It is.
I hadn't thought of the name. Okay.
Well, I am part of. I am the Menha. And I am part of a band of tribes, and I am Contrary Warrior.
And you pushing against the masses, huh?
Absolutely. Robert, seriously, I am not willing to go along to get along. I am not willing to do things that I find immoral. I am not willing to do things that I think are unreasonable. I'm not willing to do things that are against what I would consider lawful. And I'm not willing to do it willingly. I'm just not.
I know, Vince, that's why we love you. Yeah.
If I get stopped by the blue team, I want to know why they're stopping me. Why are they wasting my time and theirs? What do they expect to get from it?
I called for a positive reason, though, Vince. I'm using one of your tips and tricks, and I wanted you to know when you talked about your buckets out in your orchard.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just such a simple idea. I tried it out. I tried different sizes of the flow rate and everything. And it's wonderful, Vince. You could scale that idea. You could buy 5 buckets. You could buy 500. It allows you to test, to monitor, so much control. It's very efficient, like all these environmentalists, right? They're always talking about efficiency. You can add other systems, automation, whatever. I just think it's a wonderful idea. It's so simple, and yet that's the beauty of it, though. That's really it is nice, Vince. So I have used it a few times. I'm experimenting, so thank you for that.
Here's what I found. I bought literally 100 buckets. I bought a pallet load of used food grade that once contained garlic puree from, I don't know what exactly anybody would need 100 buckets of this for, but there was a pallet of them, and they were $1.40 a piece. And the lids were an extra 10 cents. So I bought the lids and the buckets. Bought them on a pallet. Pallet was pushed onto my pickup truck, and I took it home. And I thought, I need these. I just don't know exactly what I need them for. We use buckets to carry tools, throw them in the Jeep on the four-wheeler, and we go out to take care of the cows. And we use buckets for all kinds of things here at the farm. And I thought, gosh, these trees, I can't water them. There's too many of them. And they need water slowly. And so I experimented with a little tiny hole about half the diameter of a number 2 pencil lead. It's too small. And little specks of bugs, and it would clog that little hole up. And I determined that the right size hole is really the size of a number 2 pencil lead. So I re-drilled it out, and I drilled the holes in the center. And I deburred them so that little plastic burrs wouldn't impede the water flow. And it's perfect. And I have only 5 of them. I used 5% out of the buckets I have for this purpose. and I go out with a garden hose, a couple 100 feet long, and multiple hoses, take them out to the orchard, and I fill up the buckets, and then I leave them, and I come back, hours and hours later, and I do it again. And then I come back in the evening, and I do it again. So I try to give them 15 gallons of water, 3 times 5-gallon buckets of water per tree, and then I move those buckets to different trees. And you know what? The trees love it. They said, thank you. The leaves have turned green. They were falling off because we're in a drought here. It's been a month without rain. The ground is like concrete. It's dust, concrete. It's miserable. It looks like those images you see of cracked earth. That's what we have. The grass is crunchy. It's not green. It's brown and crunchy. So that is the great, I love it. It really works. And, it's cheap. It's, $1.50 a piece. And I'm going to use those buckets for something else. I'm going to mark them so I know that they have holes in them. And, if I need to carry something, the holes are so small I can still do that. It works great. And you can store cat food and dog food and all kinds of things in those buckets. Now ours smell like garlic, but, get food grade buckets. And if you're in the Chinese factory outlet, if you're willing to risk going in there, you can go to the bakery department and say, hey y'all, would you mind saving some of those frosting buckets? I'd appreciate that. And they will. They're going to charge you for them. Nothing goes out of Walmart unpaid for. So they're going to probably charge you 99 cents for a handful of buckets. Any comments, Robert?
No, Vince, I hear the music. I was going to ask you what state you would move to if you had the do-over, but we're out of time.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll tell you, it's real simple. Missouri.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah, I'd still move in the middle of nowhere, and I'd make sure taxes were low. There was very little government. No building inspectors. I wouldn't want building inspectors, and I would want to buy a farm that has not been abused, away from power lines, etc. Absolutely. Yeah. Robert, thanks so much.
All right, Vince. Bye.
Thank you. Above all, honesty and integrity.